out at my house today. We're recording. We've been talking about doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
It's very fun. My family is out of town this weekend.
Yeah, it's a perfect opportunity to
Finally,
bro out and some serious talking done about serious albums.
I would sit here and be like, finally some time alone.
Yeah.
But like I always miss them so much when they're gone. Okay, so I have to tell you this story about what happened to me yesterday.
Okay.
So yesterday, I am supposed to sing at a funeral service. I'm supposed to sing for this
At a funeral
Yes,
service?
this graveside service for a friend of mine.
Like hallelujah?
Thank goodness, no.
Okay.
But I'm singing at this. I have to go sing at this graveside. I've been sick this week.
Graveside?
Yeah. So like 25 people
Already
graveside.
that's weird.
It's a
for
hard
me.
one. It's
Yeah,
never
okay.
an easy thing to show up
Okay.
and do. I love this person, so I was like, of course, whatever you need,
Yeah.
he'll be there for you.
Yep.
I have been getting over a cold this week, so I was like, I knew I needed extra time in the morning to kind of clear the crud, warm up my voice as best as I could, like.
That's why the sinus neti pot was in the bathroom.
Oh man, that's right.
Okay.
I hate that thing, and yet
Same.
it saves my life.
Yep, same.
So I decide, okay, I'm going to shower early so I can kind of let the steam do its thing. Then afterward, I'm going to, kind of do what I can to warm my voice up, practice the song, right? So we have this tiny little shower upstairs in our house in this little tiny bathroom. And this shower's been this way since we moved in. It has a sprayer shower head on like a long hose, which makes no sense because it's a tiny little shower. So you never use it. It can't go anywhere, right? So
You just use it to go up and down.
I mean, I guess the thing that doesn't work is that the hose is always sort of coiled around.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you're trying to like lather up, no matter what you do, it's always turning back to point at you because you can't face it away
can't.
from you
Yep.
because the water pressure is pushing it back toward you.
Gotcha.
So it's gotten worse over time as the little clip thing has worn out more, right?
Yep.
So I'm literally at one point holding it in place so it won't spray me and trying to shower. And I push too hard and I break it.
Oh, no.
The whole thing comes down in my hand. And now I'm just getting sprayed in the face with a jet stream of hot water from the wall. It takes me a minute to remember that I have the power to turn this off, that I control
Yeah,
the
you like
the valve.
block the stream of water with
Yeah,
your
and
hand,
then I'm
and
like-
then it just sprays all
like,
over.
oh, right.
Comedy
I
of
can-
errors.
yes.
Yeah.
So I turn the water off. I try to screw the thing back on, but it's busted. And I'm like half lathered. I got conditioner in my hair. It's like, what do I do?
Harry's going crazy.
It's just it's a whole situation. So I literally finish the shower. I kind of push the shower head attachment back up onto the wall,
Gotcha.
holding it against the wall with one hand to create some kind of pressure so that
Sure.
it'll go through the hose to the shower head.
Sure.
And then I'm using the shower head to get just a little bit of water to like rinse off the rest of me. And remember, I'm supposed to be getting ready to go to a funeral.
Yeah.
And so now I realize, like, later in the day, I got to go to the hardware store and, like, buy a new
And
shower
fix
head.
this,
I
yeah.
got to fix the stupid shower head. now.
Yep.
So I go to the funeral, did all of that. And so
Yeah.
I come home, and again, I remember, oh, yeah, I got to go out to the hardware store.
Yep.
I'm still dressed like I'm going to a
funeral.
Right. I'm wearing, like, black slacks and a white button-down shirt and, like, a
Mm-hmm.
sports coat. And I'm starting to think, like, should I change my clothes? Or am I gonna have some guy at the hardware store
Yeah.
who's gonna be like, oh, look
Look
what
who's
do you
dressed
do?
for the
Yeah,
funeral.
like, exactly, like overdressed for the hardware store. And I just started to think about how this is how guys in like the 50s and 60s dressed
Just
to
all
do
the time.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Go to the hardware store, probably come home and do the job in the same outfit.
Oh, you got to get all
just
dolled
roll
up,
the
man.
sleeves up.
Yep.
Hang the jacket on the door, and
Yeah, your suit was like your everyday wear.
I was like,
Yeah.
So I just decided to go to the hardware store
And
in
I
my
think typically
suit.
they only had one of them anyways.
Well, okay.
So they wore it all the time.
You know what has convinced me more than anything that climate change is a real thing? Go look at pictures of families going to Disneyland in like the 1960s.
Yes.
You will see a dad in a
In a
full-on
suit,
gray
tie.
flannel suit
Yep.
waiting in line for the
That stuff
Matterhorn.
is thick.
And he's
too.
smiling.
Oh.
That there's no way. I've been there.
Yes. Yeah.
You're if
The
you
humidity.
were,
and,
you'd just be
or
melted.
maybe they just were suffered, and this is just a case for the old people were tougher than the new generation.
Or dads just didn't, it's like, this is just what you do. I may be drenched with sweat from the neck down, but it doesn't matter.
I don't think
I'm losing body weight from how much I'm sweating, but
I'm leaning towards the climate change, because you would see in those pictures the sweat and
he's
the
smiling.
tears.
That's what I said. They look so happy to be there.
No, not buying that.
He's in like a Pendleton like flannel jacket, and he's like, I'm having a great time with my family. This is just what we look like.
Yeah.
Went to the hardware store in my funeral suit. That's a song. I'm going to work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like whose funeral was it? Like,
right.
There's a story there.
And why at the hardware store?
Yes. Well, welcome to your dad's record collection.
This is our podcast.
It's
an 80s album retrospective.
where we listen to an 80s album, specifically 80s. If you want to know why, listen to our intro episode. That'll explain everything, who we are. I'm Ryan.
I'm Scotty, and we are half of the band Starcourt, Spokane's premier 80s cover band.
Premier favorite 80s cover band.
The region's best 80s
all
cover
the
band.
all the adjectives.
Yeah.
And today we're here to listen to Sports, an album by Huey Lewis and the News.
Is there an exclamation point in the title, or
No.
does it just feel like there should be?
It should be. I feel like
Wait,
it's
was there
all
one on
caps.
4 on the next one?
Yes.
There was an wait, I'm going to look it up right now.
Yeah, fact check us on the great googly moogly.
Because there's not enough albums that have an exclamation point in the title, honestly.
Yep.
Where you're so excited about it is. It's in 4, not
Yes,
in sports.
Not
but
in sports.
Four
but in 4.
has an exclamation
They're
point.
playing a sport while they're
I mean, if you were making the follow-up to this record,
sports,
I think
yeah.
you would have to put the exclamation point
Yeah,
there.
that's quite on the nose. You either go hard something else like library exclamation point. Or you go and you lean into the sports metaphor.
We're going to talk about this more later. I do think it's really funny that when asked about the title, Sports, Huey Lewis was just like, well, everybody, it's like an album had to have a theme. So we just thought sports. The songs have nothing to do with sports.
And we're going to get into it.
But it's just...
It had nothing to do with
great.
sports, but they liked going to this bar that they took a picture in, and that's what the picture is
The
on the
album
front,
cover,
is the bar,
yeah.
and it was a
Yep.
sports bar.
Yep.
And so they were just like...
Sports!
And Huey, I know this about Huey, he loves baseball, so...
That's
the only
because
thing.
he's a true American.
Yep.
Okay? The
Oh,
rest
in
of
more
us...
ways than
The rest
one.
of us
Yeah.
true Americans love baseball also. Even if we live in the Northwest and the Mariners never
I love
make
it.
it to the playoffs.
I love it for taking a nap, too.
Okay. Hey,
Kind of like golf in that regard.
whatever you feel gets you to the ballpark.
To get you
Even if
there.
it's just a hot dog and a nap, that's
Ooh, yeah.
that's fantastic.
I could do that. Some popcorn.
Sports.
Sports!
I might do that a lot this
That's
episode.
okay. Why this album? Why are we starting out? First podcast episode.
Look, when you're talking about doing classic records, it can be kind of daunting to think about certain albums that you're like, well, if you're going to do classics, you're going to have to talk about it.
Yep.
But also, what are you going to add to the conversation that maybe hasn't already been
Yeah,
said?
like
right?
Thriller. Like, what are we...
Right, you think about tackling
It's
that.
the top of the mountain, and you have to get there somehow.
Correct. And that's why this actually, it's a great record, and we're going to talk about a lot of the things that make it a classic. This felt like an easy, to use a metaphor based around sports, this felt like a softball. It's like,
Yes.
this is an easy, approachable
Yep.
one to do.
Yep.
There's a lot of really good information out there about it.
Yep.
And I do feel like we're also in a little bit of a time where there's kind of some cultural appreciation for some of these artists
Yes.
right now.
Yep.
Things like the documentary, The Greatest Night in Pop,
Yep.
like people watch that and you see who is really big right around that time.
Yep.
And I think there's just kind of, especially, it's sad, but like Huey Lewis doesn't tour anymore because he can't hear. He's got
Yes.
hearing loss.
We're going to get in. Yeah, we're getting in and then.
So,
into that,
you
but
feel
yeah.
there's kind of this weird synergy of like sympathy and appreciation where people revisit it and it's like,
He's underrated.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Huey Lewis is a lot more interesting than people give him credit for. Just from the sheen and the gloss of like when you first hear this movie or this song. There should be a movie about this guy's life because
There's some things
it's insane.
I read when we were doing research for this that I was just like, this doesn't sound real.
Yep, it sounds made up, but it's totally real. Yeah, it sounds like he's just BSing. Like
and okay, again, I keep saying this. We will talk about this more later because I have a lot to say about it. But you don't have a lot of artists these days who have a story like this anymore.
Correct.
Because if you ask them, oh, how did you break into the business or how'd you get where you are? Most of the time it's like, oh, my dad works for the record company, or like my parents are movie producers.
Yep.
You know,
there's money involved. There's
nepotism. And I mean, I'm not saying everything is that way. That sounds real cynical. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just don't have these sort of bizarre, like there are some things in this story that are just like, I'm sorry, what? You did what when you were a teenager? You know?
What? When? Why?
Yeah. How did that happen? And, you know, I think that makes the whole thing a lot more interesting and fun to talk about.
And I had a thought and it's escaped my brain.
Oh no!
For this album,
sports. Did that help?
Why are we starting it? I think this album pretty much epitomizes and gathers everything like about the 80s as well. It's has a broad audience that in this album there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and in every song there's just a little bit of something that came from something in the 80s, even though it came out in early 80s in 83 and was written and recorded in early 80s. Appeal was throughout the 80s. And like when I think of the 80s, this is one of the first albums that comes to my mind, at least.
Well, and I will never forget watching probably some VH1, like Behind the Music or, The Decades, whatever. I think it might have been that one years ago. And this guy had a quote about like the year 1984, right?
Okay.
Because he said 1984,
Not the book.
Well, he said the book talked about Big Brother being real at this time. And this guy, of course, was the cheesiest quote, but it's never left my brain. He just said Big Brother was real in 1984. His name was just Huey Lewis. He's like, it was everywhere.
Right.
You could not escape Huey Lewis's music no matter what you did,
Yeah, it was just everywhere. And it still kind of is today. And that's what I love about it. Sorry, I was looking up what was the highest grossing movies in the 80s, and Huey Lewis famously was on Back to the Future.
Of course.
But that's only number 7.
And what placed higher?
E.T.
Did Ghostbusters place higher?
No.
You're kidding me?
Nope.
Oh, interesting.
Ghostbusters doesn't even get in the top 10, nor the top 15.
Wow, that's fascinating to me.
It is top 20, highest grossing.
Because
of the 80s.
What? Okay. Then
you're going to love this, though. The Star Wars movie, all 3.
Of course.
I'll just do the top 5. E.T., Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Indiana Jones' Last Crusade.
Yep.
My favorite, Batman.
Batman, 89. Yes. The biggest thing that
ever
happened in the cultural
and then it's Raiders of the Lost Ark and then Back to the Future. So top 7.
So it's almost
all Steven Spielberg movies first, though.
We'll talk about why, but that's like Huey Lewis's revenge almost, because
Batman?
No.
Oh.
Yes.
The Joker? What?
With Back to the Future being a bigger movie than Ghostbusters.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That ends up...
I mean...
Well, again... We'll talk about it, okay? We're going to get into it.
Okay.
But I mean, that is, to me, Huey Lewis sort of being validated for something that could be seen as a weird injustice, but we'll get into it. So,
lots of stories.
So let's crack open let's look at your research.
The context.
Here.
I'm addicted to context, to quote Dan Carlin. He's my favorite podcaster. The album was released in 83, so we're going to use that as like a starting point for context. I wasn't alive then.
This is the year before I was born.
Okay.
Yeah. I was born in 84.
A little history of the band. They had been a band for about 5 years. They started in about 79, 78. Cool. This is like so funny to me, but they were essentially like a super group of San Francisco Bay Area bands. Huey Lewis was in this band called Clover. And they had a record label in England, and they had a couple albums produced by Mutt Lange.
Right.
And Huey's not famously, but Huey has said that they're the only band produced by Mutt Lange that hasn't gone platinum, that hasn't had a hit record. Mutt Lange, Shania Twain, Lady Gaga,
of course,
Def Leppard,
huge super
AC/DC,
producer and songwriter.
We're going to talk about it a little bit in the production aspect.
He's going to come up on this series.
He's going to be everywhere in this series. We're going to talk about it a little bit in the production aspect of it. But the other band, and this is my favorite, the other band's name was Soundhole.
That's right, Soundhole.
And of course, the bass player would be from that band.
Sound hole.
Yeah, I'm a bass player, so it's like that's just like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, just for a second though, this is what I mean. We have to at least mention Huey Lewis before this, coming up into this, singer,
his whole life.
but a harmonica player. That's really his thing. He was a harmonica
Whole
player.
life. Yeah. So his parents were, if we're going to go into the deep history of
just brief.
Huey, brief. Okay. Born in 1950. His parents, kind of the first hippies, is that in that his dad loved to play jazz and was a jazz drummer. His mom was Polish.
She was like a deadhead.
She was like a deadhead, and that's why they moved from New York to San Francisco.
Well, and married like a beat poet.
Later
that she had
in
an affair
life.
with, right?
Yeah.
And that, like, yeah. So yes, this
was a party. A hippie back in the hippie where a beatnik hippie in the 50s and 60s, late 50s, early 60s. So all these beatnik poets and stuff and parties at their house. I'm sure there was, since that you mentioned the word affair, I'm sure there was other crazy things going on.
Grateful Dead
You just watch
concerts,
just
who
watch
knows?
Oppenheimer, if
Yeah,
that's how
there you go.
and then you'll see what we're talking about. So he got these harmonicas. He would play harmonica all the time, like more annoying, probably really annoying.
Well,
I would
and
find that so
apparently
annoying.
like hitchhiked across the country.
At 16,
Yeah, as
his
a
dad was
teenager.
like, "Okay, you're a man now. You graduated from high school." Well, it wasn't a high school. It was his parents divorced when he was 13. His dad wanted custody, didn't get custody because back in then they would just give custody to the mom no matter what. But the mom was a beatnik druggie. His dad was convinced Huey to go to a, what's it called, where you go and you stay there?
Like a prep school.
A prep school. A boarding prep school. Got a perfect 800 on his SATs. So this guy is smart as a whip. Like, he's a smart guy. He graduated a year early. His dad was like, "Okay, here's your harmonicas. Here's $300. Go hitchhike across. Take a year off. Go hitchhike. Go experience the world." In that year, he got onto a plane.
Yeah, he stowed away.
He stowed away on a plane. He describes it, you're not really stowing away, but you're like, because it was physical tickets and because nothing was digital back then, you could you would get your ticket, sit in one seat, and they do a physical count. When they're doing the count, you mess up the count by sitting in another seat, by going like, "Oh, I'm not actually supposed to sit here. I'm supposed to sit here." And then you mess up the count, and then they're in too much of a hurry because they're closing the plane doors that they just like, we messed up the count, and we go.
Things you can't do now.
Yep.
But yeah, like
I mean,
literally.
we should try it.
Okay, great.
We're not supposed to sit. You're
So,
not supposed to be on this plane. Sir.
Right after when I'm recording, we'll go down to the airport and
Yep,
see
and we'll
if we
get
can
on.
get on a plane to
I
Europe.
mean, in Spokane, we might be able to get onto it.
Might work actually.
If we had like the high-vis vest
Okay.
and like a clipboard, we could probably do
Yeah,
it.
I'll get those things that they
Yeah.
use to flag the planes down, and
There you
they'll
go.
probably just let us right on. But yeah, he went to Europe. He
Went
stowed
to
away
Europe,
and plane to Europe.
did a year in Europe, made enough money busking as a harmonica player to come back. He must have been pretty good. That's when he joined Clover, got the record deal, all that sort of stuff. Clover went nowhere. I mean, they did a bunch of stuff. He got a lot of good experience with Mutt Lange. Clover broke up, and he formed Huey Lewis and the American Express.
Yeah, the American Express.
In like 78, 79. And then they got their first record deal. First album came out in 1980. They changed the name to The News.
Which was a producer's suggestion,
Huey Lewis and
right?
the News.
Or record label
The record
suggestion.
label didn't want to get sued by American Express. Which
Don't
was
leave
fair.
home without it.
Yeah, they don't want to.
Everybody knows.
Yeah. Self-titled 1980. Picture this in 81 or 82. I don't remember right, but Picture This came out and only had like one song chart a little bit.
Picture This was 82.
Yes. Okay.
And of course, that song was
Do You Believe in
Do
Love?
You Believe in Love?
Yeah.
Huge smash.
Written
by
Mutt Lange.
Mutt Lange.
Yeah.
And recorded by his band previously. They had recorded it.
Yes.
Before he pitched it to Huey Lewis.
Yeah. Or just gave it to him.
Right.
It was like,
But
"Hey,
I mean,
write this
working
song."
with them was like, and
Yeah.
so yeah, that's their first hit.
It wasn't
And-
a big hit, though.
but it was like-
And we'll get into the production aspect. There's a whole story that Huey says, but yeah.
It's really the first song to me that when you go through kind of the discography and you hear it is the first glimpse
like-
of what they will be.
Yep. It's like, this is unmistakably
Yeah.
this guy.
It's that combination of like old school sort of R&B a little bit, but with more contemporary sounds, and Huey's vocals, which are always kind of this thing that's like you can't
Yeah.
mistake him for anyone else, the way he sings. And that song, I mean, it's a great song. It's one of the few from the early days that you can group with the later singles.
Yep.
And, you know, if you didn't know, you might not know which record anywhere. You know, they're all like, they work together.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's such a, that was a good song. But yeah, I mean, he says, like, as they move into making, they've got to make sports, like,
Yep.
they're like, that record sold 250,000 copies. And it's,
Sports did?
No, the
picture this.
Picture this.
Yeah.
And in an interview, he was talking about how, like, when people hear that number now, it's like nobody's, like, unless you're the top of the top, you don't sell a lot of records anymore. So that sounds like, 250,000. Way
Pretty
to go
good,
for a
dude.
small band, you
But
know?
that's nothing.
He's like, back then.
Yeah.
So, you know, it puts them in that position as they're approaching
I feel
sports.
like back then you had a lot bigger machine.
Yep.
The record label was like a bigger machine.
Well, because you only had
And-
one path, right?
Oh, he talks about that a lot, about in this context that radio was king. There was only one avenue to success, and
Right.
it was FM radio.
Right.
He throws out there that if you were on the top of the charts, and this is an interesting thing, your song was played like 6 to 9 times a day. And if you were 10th on the chart, maybe only 1 to 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge discrepancy of like,
How often people are going to be encountering
and
your
so
music.
when somebody's big and they say you're selling a lot of records and you're top of the charts, that's what has to come to mind through this whole series, you know, through the rest of this podcast is like, keep in mind that like when we say top of the charts, your radio, you're on 6 to 9 to 10 times a day, and you hear it at least once or twice an hour.
And
And it's everywhere.
You've got young people that are going to listen, you know, like when they're on their way to school, on their breaks from school, and they get home. You got people listening on their way to and from work. Like it's like radio is the way people are experiencing music.
Yeah, because there wasn't CDs yet.
Not quite.
There was cassettes.
Cassettes.
There was vinyl.
Yep.
But all of those are big, cumbersome things.
It's an at-home thing.
So when you're in the car, you have push-button radios. Push-button where channel, you know, push 1 is this channel, 2 is this channel, 3 is this. And so that's all everybody has. And that's all the little tiny, when you see in the movies, everybody has a little tiny radio on. That's what it is. So this album came out September 15th, 83.
Yep.
Record label was Chrysalis Records, but it was bought out by CBS, Sony. And in 83, you had a lot of competition. We can't stress this enough.
We'll talk
Yes.
about some of it in a minute. But I mean, it's truly, you know, Huey Lewis has talked about this for their career at this point. They'd had one hit, so to speak.
Sure.
That finally kind of pulled them out of they'd made 2 records that really hadn't done a lot. He'd been in this previous band.
Yeah.
So being at this
This is
point,
15 years into their career, by the way.
so you've
Think
already
about that.
you've done this
Holy
time,
cow.
and especially like, you know, these are all guys that came from that San Francisco music scene. If you think about that much time spent, San Francisco was the hub in American rock music at that time. If you think, well, because it
there was
moved
like 3 or 4 hubs, I feel.
But as far as the epicenter of culture, it had shifted from the New York scene. Okay, because New York, of course, in the like mid 60s is a lot of the folk movement.
Yeah.
You get, you know, like Bob Dylan and the Greenwich Village scene.
Okay.
And then, of course, after spending time in England, like Paul Simon comes back and is a New York staple, like all of that kind of stuff, right? But then
Sure.
like the Byrds and like these bands, these rock bands start in LA, Buffalo Springfield, and like these
The Eagles and
these are
Linda
LA
Ronstadt,
bands.
Those are all LA.
But everything moves up to the San Francisco scene during the
Okay.
hippie days. This is like
Gotcha.
the
60s,
epicenter, right? Late
'Cause we're talking
60s, early
late
70s.
70s. Okay.
So if you think about them playing, especially as like a like these guys are, you know, playing small clubs, they're doing this kind of stuff, like that coming from San Francisco, that's their bread and butter. Like they're a good band.
Yeah.
They're like they are. And again, Huey Lewis, you got to remember, he's a blues harmonica player.
Yeah.
So
He's
you know,
got to be insanely good to be in a band and just be harmonica,
Well,
and not
and
guitar and harmonica.
it
or-
makes sense to
you
me
know.
that kind of a band,
Yeah.
in
And he
the-
started out just harmonica, not singing.
Right.
And slowly worked
which
his
is
way
wild
to singing.
to find that
Yeah.
voice, you know, later.
Have you seen pictures of him, though, when he's in that band? Where he has, like, the long hair and the
Feathery-
goatee?
Yeah, yeah.
It's so crazy.
It's the cool beatnik
It's so funny. Yeah.
version of Huey Lewis. I just think about like the
Tight shirt and the bell bottoms.
when you are looking at that scene at that time, that kind of a band makes more sense because it's like, bands that have like extended solos and jam like blues
jam
bands,
band, yeah.
you're in the height of when, it's basically like the kind of white blues rock bands were the definition of what rock was, at the time, right?
Yeah. CCR and
For that to then, by the time we get into the beginning of the 80s, for
it's
that
way
to
different.
translate,
Okay.
right? That's an odd thing to think about. Like
Sure.
the guy that
I'm
primarily
thinking about-
plays blues harmonica in his band,
Yep.
like to be a mainstream thing when you're looking at 80s pop music kind of going forward, right?
Yeah.
And even for like the band to later kind of have the classification of being like a little bit on the new wave side is weird,
Yeah.
right? Because you think of new wave being like Blondie and, like the later Talking Heads stuff. And
Yeah,
like,
and if you listen to that first album, it has a very much a punk
yeah, it's pretty
new
raw,
wave, quote, new wave influence. Do we think of new wave as something now that is different than what it actually was?
I think it's wider.
I think I do.
Yeah,
I
I
feel like
think-
new wave for me is synthesizers.
Definitely
like new
the
wave
use
for
of
me
synths.
is like Devo and New Order and like
Oh, yeah.
what's this song? Sweet Dreams and Eurythmics.
Oh, the
And like
Eurythmics.
that's what when I think of new wave, that's what I think. That's when they were thinking of new wave, it was second wave punk.
Right.
So think of punk is The Clash, is Sex Pistols, is
The Ramones and
the Ramones were
They're
first
later,
wave,
but yes.
were New York punk.
Correct.
Yeah. And then Blondie was new wave.
Right.
Talking Heads was new wave.
Right.
Which is interesting. And then Huey's first album in 1980 was new wave.
Right.
Right. And so that's why when you watch American Psycho and Christian Bale's character, whatever his name is,
yeah, Patrick Bateman.
whatever.
Patrick Batman.
And he's like, it's a little new wave for me. That's a whole
Right.
shtick,
When I
to me, that never made sense because I was like, new wave, they don't have any synthesizers
Yeah.
until their third album.
right.
almost. Like,
And I think one of the things that is also connected with that is that early punk music pretty much always has a political component to it, right? Like
and
that
a
first
heavy,
wave.
a heavy reggae influence.
Yeah, of course. That's the stuff that gets incorporated into what we call like third wave, like ska music,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
But like there's a punk in and political, like that is a big
All
piece
about
of that
political,
movement, right?
and specifically left wing,
Yes,
very
hardcore
very
anti-authoritarian.
hardcore left wing.
Well, but it's fascinating to me to look back. I think this is what I see that I think is interesting when you look back at kind of the new wave movement as a whole.
Yeah.
You have bands that had intentionally started as an antithesis to like what mainstream music sounded like.
Sure.
Embracing mainstream sounds. And then
Okay.
you have bands that have no political component that are embracing that sound, that are part of that movement, that literally then launch into being a band that's a pop band making money, right? That's their thing.
Yeah.
That is a fascinating trajectory, but that's every music movement ever, is usually somebody who goes, like the early parts of it have, this very pure artistic whatever.
Sure.
Well, sometimes there's a political component, whatever. It gets kind of co-opted or attached to ability to use this to sell records to make money, and then
it gets commercialized.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's a fascinating thing. And even as we get
Almost
into
selling out, if the movement selling out.
if you're thinking
Yeah.
about it that way. And that's why I think it's interesting to look again at the fact that this album is being made at kind of a make or break point in their career, where it's like,
Ooh, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's a great segue.
it's like
Yeah.
either this record is successful or they're done, like the
Yeah.
label's done with them. And so they were
Yeah,
basically
he says it's their he doesn't say this out loud, but the way he says it, I get the feeling that it was like a last chance. One, somehow their first two albums didn't really go anywhere.
right.
And even though it sold 250,000 copies, that's nothing.
Yeah.
What they need
In the industry,
to do,
that's-
and then nothing. While you could see that they were good songwriters and the beginnings of what they were going to be, it hadn't coalesced into anything like marketable for them. I could see the record label almost giving them an ultimatum. Sure, you can do your next album on your own, which they did. That was another thing that's really uncommon about this album.
It's a little bit punk of them to do that.
It's self-produced. And we talked this a little bit about with Mutt Lange, but this is an era where the producers are almost rock stars unto themselves.
Oh, completely.
Phil Spector, Mutt Lange, Quincy Jones, Brian Eno, like all these guys who were just like bigger than life.
They all have
itself.
reputations for taking a band and putting their stamp on it.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, oh, we want to make a record with this person.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that, the fact that they're going to be at a make or break point in their career and make a self-produced record after having a hit with a song they didn't even write is a really interesting thing. Like that's brave. I think about myself being in that position, even as a songwriter, and I feel like I don't know that I would have the guts to stick to every artistic sort of intention that I would have if I were at that point where it's like, gosh, this next one has to sell or we're done.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to do it myself.
But then you make it, and this is what they did, is they made it with the intention of every song has to be a hit.
Yeah, they were shooting for radio with every song.
That's what he says, is like they made every decision commercially.
Yep.
Like quotes around that word is like, every song is going to be a commercial hit because we need to have at least one.
We got to have hits.
Be a hit. And
right,
then
we gotta have a hit.
He says we needed one. We didn't know we were going to have 5 of them.
Right, exactly.
He says that a lot.
Okay, so let me ask you this right here before we
let me answer you
go
this,
any further.
Sucker. Go.
Do you think that affects the cohesiveness of this as a record? Hearing this as a collection of singles? Because I don't know if it does for me.
For me, I like the fact that the different genres pop out.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it affects that. I'll be super truthful. If we're going to like get into this, I was going to get this into more of the end.
Okay.
So maybe I'll hold off of this on my personal feelings. I don't think it does.
Okay.
To answer your question, the cohesiveness of the record, I don't think it does.
Okay.
I think every song, if you take them as you go, they're different enough that my ears go, okay, sweet.
Well, and the way that they're produced, the way they sound is very cohesive. There's a lot of
really interesting.
Cool things. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. But I think, especially for the era and the time that it's in, it feels like the record that they needed to make at the time. Yeah. And it's like the fact that I think what really blows my mind about the movement in like from Picture This to Sports for this band is you go from, again, band that their only real hit and well-known song is not one that they wrote.
True.
To having 4 of the 5 singles that they managed to get radio play off of in the next couple of years off of this record that they wrote.
Yeah.
And going from like a good band to like a sort of well-oiled songwriting machine with a very distinct sound is like, that's really impressive to do that.
So impressive.
And I think what I get sad about in our more contemporary music landscape is that there's an expectation that every band or artist or whatever who's going to put music out, that you have to arrive fully formed.
Oh.
That like whatever you put out or you pitch to a playlist or whatever it is, these people want to hear from the beginning that you have every element in place.
Yeah, they want every element in place. They want they want an X amount of followers on all these platforms.
It's gotta be.
You have to be your own machine already.
Right.
And do all that work beforehand before the record label machine can come behind you.
Yeah, before anybody's going to throw anything behind you.
Which is really interesting because if you think about, I'm thinking about 2 artists, Billie Eilish and Chappelle Roan. Were they already?
Chappelle
Roan?
Is it Chapel?
Chapel Roan?
We're sorry. We're sorry, Ms. Roan.
I'm sorry.
It's not the Dave Chappelle.
Were they fully formed? Billie Eilish and Chapel Roan?
That's a hard one. Chapel Roan was not.
I don't feel like they were.
Chapel Roan was doing much like different
I don't feel like
stuff.
For me, Billie Eilish came out of nowhere.
Billie Eilish
because I wasn't in that scene of like.
Billie Eilish kind of was.
Okay.
By the time the music was really getting out there, it was a lot of the things.
By fully formed, I mean like machines already going. They were already on tour. They were already had a booking agent. They already had like, when we say machines, we should say agent, management.
We're just talking about the things that
the team of people around you that a social media
Grease
manager.
the wheels and get you going.
Yeah.
You know, the thing you have to remember is that like so Billie Eilish's debut like album didn't come out till like 2019, but they've been putting songs out before that for a while.
Okay.
On like, you know, online. But the like
Was she a SoundCloud rapper?
they
Like online?
I don't know if it was SoundCloud.
It was Bandcamp or Sound. I remember hearing about that. Anyways, we're stuck in the 80s, so how do we know?
I know, right? This is
all that to say that having a band not fully formed and a record label coming and developing and putting their machine, and how does your band fit in our machine doesn't happen anymore, and that is pretty sad.
Yeah, it's just an interesting thing to kind of witness that like we are in a more, as far as like the people with the power to, you know, get things heard. I think we live in a more risk-averse culture.
Yeah.
But maybe we don't. I don't know, because, you know, one of the things that they talked about with this was that the risk of self-producing this record, sports, they're like, one of the reasons we could get away with it is because the label was not
Thousands of
nearby.
miles away.
They couldn't control what
Yeah.
we were going to do, and we had a contract that allowed us to like make another record.
And you have to think about
it was a smaller label.
it was a smaller label. They were also running out of money because they got bought by CBS when Huey was going to turn in the record in January of '83. They got bought out by Sony or whatever, and this was a big decision. They were going to turn in the record, and they didn't because they were afraid that it was going to get lost in the shuffle, and the new company conglomerate wasn't going to know how to like promote it right. So they waited, and they ended up re-recording almost all of the Lindrum stuff. Then it didn't come out until September of '83.
So let's talk about the Lindrum.
Jeff Lynne. No, that's a different Lynne.
This is Jeff.
Is it Robert Lynne?
Jeff Lynne's snare drum.
My name is Jeff.
He just left it in the studio.
Famously, it is a Lynne drum machine. It is one of the first. It's its own unit. It's not a computer in the traditional sense of the word.
Roger Lynne. Engineer Roger Lynne.
Roger Lynne. He recorded Jeff Porcarino. Who's that guy? I don't know who that guy is. I just heard the name and then was like, the drums that are on the Lynne drum. Do you know who that is? No? Well, I'm going to have to do the great googly moogly. Talk about the Lynne drum for a second.
Lynne drum, the LM2 more specifically, was just, it was like more widely available, right? So you're laughing. I want to know why.
Jeff Porcaro.
Oh, Porcaro. Oh, yes, I know who
The
Jeff
drummer
Porcaro
for Toto.
is. Oh, gosh.
How did I not know that?
Porcarino.
Oh, my gosh.
Once again.
Well, that makes a lot more sense. Okay, why it became huge. Because you could have Toto's drummer on
Or
samples.
ostensibly like the samples. Yeah,
on samples
right.
on this machine, and you could program a beat, and it would repeat that beat, and you could program fills and all that sort of stuff.
And the thing is, this is still a fairly new thing when they're making this record, because the first
brand
ones
new.
were manufactured
They
in like
didn't
82.
even know it existed until they were in the studio, and the story they tell is that next door in Studio B or whatever, Jefferson Starship was recording, and they were walking down, and the door was open, and they heard, they heard a drum sample, and were like, "What is that?"
Yeah, could we have some of that, please?
The song it was on was "Built a City."
Of course.
And they were listening to that, and they were like, "We want that drum machine. Can you come program it at us?" So they record the album. They go to turn it in. They go on tour, and recording sports takes like almost a year and a half plus most of '83 to re-record stuff because they had to tour at the same time.
Right.
They called it the working for a living tour.
Literally trying to bring in enough money
Which
to
is also an interesting
survive.
thing, because you were talking about how this album feels super cohesive and put together. It's not. It is the opposite of that, is because they would be in a studio for like a week, and they'd run out of time and money, and then they'd have to go tour for a couple weeks to get time, to get money to pay for studio time. Studio A was booked, so they couldn't get in there, so they would go into a different studio, and they'd piece together what they got and record some more. and then have to go out on the road again
Right.
and get more money. And then they say how they got there with the big song "I Want a New Drug" is that they weren't feeling it. They weren't feeling it with the drum machine, and they finally went in, and then somebody bumped up the BPMs of 2 clicks, and then it worked perfectly. And so then they did it with every song.
Yeah.
So I couldn't imagine. And if we had more money and the rights, we would put "I Want a New Drug" 2 BPM slower and just see how it sounds. It'd be so interesting to me. We should do it after this podcast anyway.
I'm going to do it as an experiment.
Yeah, just to see what it sounds. So that's a really interesting like factoid, is that, right? Like it sounds all so put together and like unsampled almost.
Right.
But it's not. It's
right.
It's, so which is another testament to them producing it themselves.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's an impressive thing when you actually hear the finished product, that it doesn't feel completely disjointed and like, like a band trying really hard. You know what I mean? There are those records that I think you can tell when the artist is like, they're trying really hard to make something work.
Sure.
And this is not one of those. It does not come off that way,
Yeah.
It
does come off as very natural.
It's very natural. It's energetic, and it's like, like all of that stuff works. It's just fascinating that it does feel very, all of the elements, they work. It works.
Yeah. They just had it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
I did want to like touch on, so there's the Linn drum machine, and then a lot of the songs, they double the drums with the Linn drum machine, and then they also use synthesizer for the bass. Huey talks about how the bass player had a specific, did not like this at all. And as a bass player, I understand where he's coming from, but also just learn how to play the keyboard, dude.
Yeah, play the...
I think it was, and this is another 80s band, Duran Duran, the bass player for that was like, well, I'm a bass player. Bass isn't an instrument. It's a tone. It's a tonal range. It's a frequency range. And I am the expert at that frequency range. So I will play piano if it's in the bass section. I will play bass, and I will play synthesizers, and I will do whatever it takes to play and be an expert in the bass frequency.
Adapt to what you need to
exactly.
do.
Yeah.
To make it.
And but this is also the guy who wears the sunglasses and the cigarette in his mouth the whole show.
He's too cool.
He's too cool for school.
I mean, just that I think it's cool that, one of the things even that noted beforehand is that because they're producing it themselves, they're incorporating all of the things they like. Yes. All of their influences from other genres,
but
other
also
sounds.
Making very commercial decisions.
Yeah.
And I think Huey is being very diplomatic with his other members of the band.
Right.
Because being in a band myself and trying to make those decisions is very difficult, because you might have something you like and fits the song, but the other one member of the band is like, it's not it.
Yeah.
And it's not commercially successful. And so the discussions and the arguments. So I think he's being very diplomatic when Huey says, yeah, the bass players and the drummer has a problem with it, but they came on board eventually.
They got along with it. Yeah, I mean.
And how much of it was just Huey just going no. This is Huey Lewis, full stop.
Yeah, we have to do it
this
way.
News is nothing without me,
I mean, I think about that with a lot of bands that have to kind of figure out a way to adapt to something.
Yes.
And, it comes to mind, I feel like every time they went to make a record after, basically after OK Computer, Radiohead almost broke up over what, they were trying to do, over what Tom York would want to do with the band.
Yeah.
Because they'd just be like, well, that's not what we do. And he'd be like, okay, well, then we need to figure out.
We need to change what we do.
Yeah, because we can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And I mean, you do have to, I think, have at least one real strong personality in a band who can kind of basically gather everybody in to make those things work. You do have some bands that I'm not going to be able to think of a good example right now, but are like a true democracy as far as everybody, sure, does
Well, they're all family members.
Yeah.
So I do think Kings of Leon, we just saw them in concert.
It's
yeah, now my brain
that's
is
what
going,
I mean. It's hard to think of those examples because For
I'm
the
looking
most
at
part.
I'm looking at your wall
Yeah,
of
of
bands
album
and going
covers.
like, yeah, you're right.
It's like
Me Without You's not even together anymore.
R.I.P.
Outcast is just two guys. Jeff Buckley's dead.
Outcast eventually really just was two guys
Yeah.
making two different records.
Yes.
And packaging them together.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
no, I think the other thing was like it's kind of fun to see the list of like studios that they were working in. That at the time
There
were
was
like
3 of them.
Fantasy.
Fantasy Studios. Here's another big sad thing, and we're gonna go. Is none of these studios exist anymore?
The history of that is like
Because I was like, oh, it'd be fun to do a road trip and go and try and get into Fantasy Studios.
Yeah.
Nope, it's not
not
there
there
anymore.
anymore.
It's a parking lot. The Automat. What a cool name. Did you see the logo for that?
no.
It's all like a dot matrix printer like style, where like they just do like
So 80s, it hurts.
yeah, it's super cool. Studio D, which was just like a strip mall kind of thing,
Gosh, it's just
but they had a
okay. Here's
like a 64 channel board that was like more
you ready?
expensive than
Here's
this
us
house.
like just selected discography of records that were at least partially made at Fantasy.
Okay,
You ready?
I'm ready.
Journey's Escape.
Yeah,
We have Europe, The Final Countdown.
no way. Really?
Uh-huh.
That's awesome.
Bobby McFerrin's Simple Pleasures album.
Okay.
Chris Isaak's Heart Shaped World.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Green Day's Dookie was made there.
Meh. Sorry.
The Grammy-winning phenomenon Supernatural by Santana was made there.
Oh.
And then, like
and everything else he's made sense,
it's
essentially.
just, it's wild how diverse.
That
but
is crazy.
It's a pretty good collection of people
Yeah.
working it right there in Berkeley, California.
Yeah.
That's another thing I think that people don't think as much about now was how much it cost to get
Time and money.
yeah
Yeah.
and to have somebody to run the board, and not just run the board, but like the tape that you're paying for, all of these things that's we think
Some
of
of when we think of Hugh, like you think of bands, the one that comes to mind right now is Def Leppard, where they're in the studio for 6 months.
how expensive that is to make us like 6 months in the studio.
Expensive. Oh
yeah
my gosh.
And if you party the way that some of these bands did,
I bet they did. Yeah.
you are piling those expenses
Yeah.
up. And the fact that all of that gets advanced by a label and then
Yep.
you pay it back later, that's part of
or
why.
from your previous record sales.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
one of the reasons that you have to have a hit off of that record
Yes.
is because that label has already advanced you that money.
Yeah.
And if you've spent it all, you're
You're shit out of luck. Oops,
You're
sorry.
tough,
You're out of luck.
Just
You're up a
bleep it.
creek without us. Yeah. I'll do like a Huey Lewis.
you're sports out
You're
of luck.
Sports out of luck. Yeah. You're 4 out of luck.
All right, let's talk about the songwriting on this record.
Yes. Well, like we said, it's a deliberate attempt to be commercial, to tap into themes of American life and the working class, blue jeans, collared shirt,
You can hear that too.
and to get as broad of appeal as possible. Yeah. But I think that's one of the reasons why it feels so naturally accessible.
Mm-hmm.
First is that album cover. Huey's face is just timeless.
Yeah.
And he's got the coat over and he's just like, hey, we're
Just
we're
looks like a
good old
guy.
boys in a
It just looks like he's a
we're-
guy. He's
we're
a handsome
guys.
guy.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, this is just a guy.
His head is as tall as his torso.
He does have a tall head.
right?
Yeah.
And like
The chin is unmistakable.
in some of
he's got a good
pictures-
chin.
Yeah. Big
He's
old
got a
chin.
good chin, man. I feel like, okay, he's definitely one of those guys that looks like the voice that he has. When you see his face,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
like that chin, you're like, well, yeah, the voice could only come out of
Yeah.
that chin. Like if he did not, don't think every singer, especially from the 80s, fits that bill. I still don't think Steve Perry looks like the voice that comes out of him. When I see him in videos, it still takes me a
he
second
looks
to
like
go.
a hobbit. He does. To me, at least.
Steve Perry Baggins
Yeah.
eating second breakfast before.
Short.
But it's just funny, right? Like I see him sing, and it takes me
Yeah.
a second to connect. Oh yeah, that's Steve Perry's voice.
Yeah.
And this is also we live in a weird era right now where if you listen to older bands or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
especially just streaming them, you might not have pictures of them in your face. Like I would
Ever.
imagine there's a
Yeah.
lot of people like younger than us who have listened
Yeah.
and heard these songs who have no idea what any of these people look like.
True.
Never seen them
Yeah.
before because there's no.
Definitely not Huey
There's
Lewis
no
'cause
MTV,
he's
right?
on every album.
Because it's Huey Lewis.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
His face is on
You
every
don't
album.
not put that chin on the album cover.
And that is that's another thing too that contributed to their success is MTV.
Yes.
Is they were one of the first darlings of MTV because they would make their own videos.
Yes.
Yeah. And they weren't good videos, but it was because
It's content,
Is
baby.
because everything is content. Is because MTV would just play whatever is on the radio. So
Right.
if you made a video for your song and it was on the radio, you were
And if
on
you've
MTV.
got 4 or 5 singles off of the same record in the span of
You
2
got-
years.
Yeah, you got 4 or 5 videos.
I think about that now, though. That's an interesting thought. Is that in the era of social media short form content, which is the way everybody promotes things these days,
Yep.
we are in that same era in a way that was early 80s MTV music videos, where if you watch the videos now, you're like, these videos suck. Mm-hmm. They're really shoddy. They didn't really know what to do except film the band. That's what we're doing
if
now.
Your video has 10-second like gotcha clips, hot takes.
Yeah.
If your video has
moments,
like
right?
a section of like a hot take where it's like, oh, this is a crazy visual,
Right.
then
But-
yes, but
I'm talking about the fact that every singer-songwriter makes... Yeah, keep
that's
going.
it.
Has to make a video where they're basically just singing their song to their iPhone with the lyrics up and post it.
Oh, okay.
You'll see hundreds of them on TikTok.
Oh man, yeah.
And they're all like, of course, it's your iPhone. So like the resolution's not great, the lighting's not great, but it's what you can do because you have
Feels
to put
great to
content
me.
out there. You
I don't
have to
know.
do it, you know?
Okay.
I want to know if that format even survives the next couple of years, because we're in
Okay.
everything's more advanced cycle now,
What's
right? It
gonna
goes
be-
faster.
Yeah, I'm more interested in like.
Does that
what's
get
gonna be
better,
next.
or
Are
do we
gonna
move to
go-
something else?
Yeah.
Because when we move into the 90s, music videos were
Polished,
incredible.
and you had like Spike Lee and like
yes,
people doing videos for artists.
Spike Jones.
Spike Jones.
There you
Who
go.
was Spike Lee?
He's a director. He
Yeah.
made like Do the Right Thing. And,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Did he make music videos?
Let's Google him.
All right, here we
Let's
go.
fact check us right now. But
But
anyways,
yes, like
yeah,
Michelle
you have-
Gondry and like these very creative, very polished, very iconic music videos that, the sort of goofy early 80s music videos walked so that those ones could just soar.
Music
you know.
videos directed by Spike Lee.
What do you see?
Cosa Della Vida?
Huh, I don't know.
Da Butt? I don't know who did that. Fight the Power, Public Enemy.
Wait, he did that
Eminem,
one?
Hip
Look
Hop
at you.
Parade,
Okay,
Money
well,
Don't
that's
Matter
early, but-
Tonight. They Don't Care About Us. This Is It, Michael Jackson song. White Lines, Don't Do It.
Interesting,
Who
interesting.
did that? Hip Hop recording, Mel Mail. Yeah, Spike Lee got started doing music videos
Well, there you go.
in the 80s, actually. So, hey.
Spike Lee and Spike
There's
Jones.
a potential
out there.
podcast
Hey,
episode.
da-da-da-da-da, the videos.
Sports.
That'll be down the line. Okay, so let's talk about the.
Well, I have it's kind of a weird.
Tell me, I like weird.
I have this in my like cultural impact section. Because of sports, he got the gig to do Power of Love.
Right. For Back to the Future.
He got the gig to do songs for Back to the Future. This is where Huey gets into his like songwriting process. So that's why I had it. In the interviews he's given, his creative process, to me, it feels like, and this is his words, is that it's a gift and that whatever the song wants to be, that's what it will be. So he felt uncomfortable writing a song for Back to the Future, a theme song, like with a purpose, right? He felt uncomfortable for that. And I kind of have to be honest, I feel that rarely. It typically just has to be a song that fits the aesthetic somehow.
You know what's funny to me is...
Well, before we get into that.
You don't want to hear what's funny to me yet?
I do.
Save it? Okay.
Well, I was going to ask you because
tell me. I want to know.
Okay, let me finish this thought. Is that it's a gift. You get an idea and you work that idea into the song as its own identity.
Yeah.
Okay. And it makes sports, that's all that more interesting to me, is it seems like it would be a contradiction in writing an album to make a hit song. Like, so that's
right.
Because that's what they're doing is they're trying to be commercial.
With every track.
With every track.
Yes.
And so, but that's what he says is that the idea of the song is pure and as inspired, and that's the gift. And then the songwriting is really uncontrollable, and it's its own thing. However, it's the decisions you make when getting that song recorded is controllable, and that's what you get the commercial success.
Yeah.
So then now I want to hear your interesting thoughts, because as a songwriter yourself, how does that
I
resonate
think
with you?
that idea that's when you hear a lot from songwriters, is it's almost like, like a really good song idea feels less like you've come up with it and more like you've discovered it,
Sure.
like you've come across something that was already there.
Yeah.
Those are like usually the best song ideas.
Okay, cool.
And I kind of love the idea that no matter what you do with the finished product, whether you take it in kind of a bizarre artistic, direction, or you polish it up into a really good pop song, like that, I like that idea that like the central nugget of it is this very pure idea and thought,
Sure.
right? Because I think we could, get into a discussion about like high and low brow music and like what is,
Sure.
like way up there in the, this is for the high-minded people and this is just directed at the masses, right?
Yeah.
But it's really difficult to craft a really good pop song that has appeal to a lot of people, but is not dumbed down so far that it's just, feeling like you're repeating the same thing a million times. And I think that is very much like a gift. And I think the thing that I was going to say is that when it comes to like writing a song for a movie, right, where you have like a prompt.
Yes.
I know for me, sometimes that actually makes things easier because sometimes the unrestrained creative freedom of like, you could write about whatever you want means I don't even know where to start.
Well, yeah, when you start as a writer, you start out with a blank piece of paper and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I could do anything. And then you go, I could do anything, So
and then you're in a black hole of anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so sometimes just having like those parameters becomes like, right now, this is a box, right?
Sure.
But once you start to color in the box, then it's a palette. You know what I mean?
But
then it's like,
but that color then becomes anything, kind of a counterpoint. Sorry. That palette becomes whatever that palette is.
yeah,
And what if that doesn't fit the vibe of the movie?
sure. And that's where some people are really good at it and
Yeah.
some people are not.
And
you
so
know,
I say that because I can see why Huey would be like,
But again, here's what's funny.
How about we just write songs, and if you like them, you can have them.
I think so many people, when they think of in their mind, like the culture of the 80s, what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, probably think of Back to the Future. You know what I mean?
That's why I brought it up at the beginning, was because it's like,
It's such a totemic film like memory for so many people.
It was a shock to see E.T. because E.T.'s like, oh, whatever. But Back to the Future to me is a more seminal, like,
and it
80s
captures that
movie.
vibe. So what's funny then is for to talk about like how you said earlier, you feel like this record and Huey Lewis in a way feels almost more 80s than anything else when it comes to the sound of their music.
Yeah.
That's the soundtrack for that film.
But Power of Love wasn't on sports.
Right. No, this
That's
is 2
what's
years
crazy.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that's interesting though. And that just goes back to this records being a time capsule thing. They come from a time and a place. Yeah. And I think as a songwriter too, every songwriter that I know, like even when people attach themselves to something in your early work, it's always really funny to the artist, because you're like, well, yeah, I understand, but like, I feel like I moved past that work so long ago that, like I've made a lot of stuff since then, you know, and yet for a lot of people, because it connects to them at a certain time and place, it's like, but I'll always be anchored to this project. You know what I mean? Yep. And so, I think.
Yeah, because I heard Power of Love before I heard anything else.
Oh yeah, same.
So
that was my first Huey Lewis.
So I'm
exposure
anchored to that more than anything.
Back to the Future was a big movie for me.
What's your favorite two top songs of? What are your faves of the album?
I'd have to give my favorite to If This Is It.
Gotcha.
I love like that song because I think that hook is real strong. I think coming out of the gate, like that's one of the more natural hooks. I love that. Just the lyrical line, if this is it, is the beginning of like a sort of a statement, right? Like there's a finishing line that comes after that. And so for that to be the hook, I think is really interesting. I like the kind of throwback doo-wop kind of thing, but with their sound. And I think for me, that song is a really good follow-up to Do You Believe in Love, you know, when it comes to the background vocals and like, you know.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And I love the sound of that track. And then my second would probably
pre-chorus is like in If This Is It. The pre-chorus is like, I think, my favorite like moment
section. Yeah.
of the whole album.
Yeah.
Where it's like, girl, don't cry.
Yep. It's so good.
It's like that section is just like, oh, I could just have that
And
pre-chorus on repeat.
You know, it's funny. There was at that time, that 2 year period, 83, 84, and like a couple years, like that little chunk, there was kind of this weird romanticized, like throwback to the doo-wop era kind of thing. Like Billy Joel was doing it with like the longest time. And, you know, I think that sometimes it comes off really cheesy. I think that song acquits itself really well.
So doo-wop was in the 50s?
Correct.
So
I mean, doo-wop's like
50s,
vocal group
60s,
singing,
70s.
you know, comes from...
So it was 40 years after?
We're talking like this is, you know...
80s was about 40...
30-ish years after doo-wop, right?
So now, I was just thinking about... Now we're about 40 years, 35, 40 years from the 80s.
And there's...
And how we're talking about the 80s.
nostalgia.
And how they were like nostalgic about the 50s, we're nostalgic about the 80s.
Yep. Because I mean, yeah, like Longest Time.
Yep.
That song by Billy Joel was 84. And I like, it's a fine song, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
You have others in that era that kind of are doing that same thing, romanticizing that genre of music. And I think If This Is It really like captures that well for the time. I love it. My other one probably have to go to Heart and Soul. I think it's just a great...
Oh, mine too.
Gutsy
my first one.
pop rock
Heart and
song.
Soul, great bass tone as a bass player.
Great
like
guitar tone too.
That just
good
and
chunky
then for
riff.
me, a standout one that I didn't know about until like I listened to this album doing prep for this podcast was Walking on the Thin Line.
It's a cool song.
And it's about the Vietnam War and how it's
I did not know that.
kind of political. Yeah. It kind of hits you when you listen to it, and it's about a guy coming home from the Vietnam War and nobody recognizes him because he's changed so much, and about he was walking on the front line, or he came back walking on a thin line back from the front line. Yeah. And how it's like political and how like we don't respect our vets.
Yeah.
Pretty much anymore, or then. And so that was a really interesting one to me. What about your duds?
The duds, and you know, it's funny, like on a record that we've talked about how every song was pitched as like basically needed to be a radio song, right? There's a couple tracks that just feel more like album filler to me.
Sure.
I think that, you know, Finally Found a Home feels like
my first one
album
too.
filler to me.
Yeah.
And so
the chorus is a banger, but the intro with the acoustic guitar and the minory stuff felt just off from the rest of the album.
Yeah.
And it felt like they were trying to do like a weird 70s like ballad from LA kind of vibe.
Sure.
Where it was like it didn't really fit with the R&B funk like
Okay.
soul
Okay.
doo-wop that they had going on, right?
And then the other I hear that doesn't feel like a dud, but it's the one that, you know, stands out to me where, you know, when you're listening through an album now on like streaming and it'll automatically roll into another single by the band. And sometimes you don't realize you've switched to a new record, right? Till you look.
Sure.
When it gets to the Hank Williams cover at the end, when it does Honky Tonk Blues.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes that's what I think. I'm like, oh, did we move to another record? No, this is the closing song they chose. And I do think it's a fun cover.
I feel Honky Tonk Blues works really well with Bad Is Bad.
Yes.
So that one, I was like, I wasn't feeling that as much.
I'm with you on Bad Is Bad. I think both of those, to me, feel like those are the biggest throwbacks to how this band started. And like the early, like them as just a live rock band, you know, and where I kind of go, I bet they covered Honky Tonk Blues hundreds of times.
Yeah, and they just needed, what is that, a 12 song?
No, there's 9 songs.
They needed
on this
more
record.
songs. Yeah,
this is a get in and get.
Yeah, they needed more songs.
Get sports done record.
Yeah.
This is like 37 and a half minutes of you know, pop music. And that's why, like, Honky Tonk Blues, I think it's a fun cover, but I guarantee you it's one they'd been covering for years, and we're like, hey, let's put this on the record.
Absolutely.
You know.
I see 100% where you're going. One I didn't like as much was You Crack Me Up.
Okay.
The mix in that makes the bass synth sound too much out of place.
Sure.
It's the bass synth line.
Yeah,
I
the
just
tone
didn't
is
like
definitely
that.
kind of, it's
just
a little weird. Yeah.
And it feels, it may work for the rest of the album where they double the Linn drum with the drums. There's a bass synth there, but it is lower in the mix, and
Okay.
it's also doubled with a bass guitar. So so there's that mix of old and new, and
Yep.
it works for the rest of the album, but it just makes it stand out, and it sounds juvenile. Like, it sounds like an album where it's all just electric. Not that that's juvenile, but like that.
It kind of removes something human from it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like that. It's
Which
just,
is-
maybe it's just mixed weird. I don't know.
It's a funny thing, I think, with listening to certain records from the 80s, because there are production choices that when you hear them now, again, you're just like, this is very much of its time.
Yeah.
Like, this is them trying things that the technology's literally barely been around.
For sure. Yeah.
But it's like, well,
We got to use it.
yeah,
Let's
give
use
a
it.
shot,
Sounds
see what
cool.
happens.
I mean,
and sometimes it works like incredibly well,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's like this, it hasn't aged as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Such a great album, to be honest with you. It's like every song is just a banger.
Yeah, it's a fun
Yeah.
listen.
When the songs we don't like are still bangers. That's the crazy
Oh
part.
yeah, like I don't think there are any of them that I would like, go out of my way to skip. You know what I mean?
Sure. So they do Sports. They do Power of Love. When does
86, right?
I mean, the movie came out in 85.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So-
Famously 1985, 55.
Yeah, the year we were born. When did Ghostbusters come out?
Okay.
Ghostbusters movie.
We're moving into our cultural impact section here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Ghostbusters controversy.
Ghostbusters Afterlife? No.
Ghostbusters
Original.
came out in 1984.
Okay.
So what this means is that
So
Ghostbusters comes out
I Want a New Drug has been out for over a year.
maybe almost a year, right? Because we said Sports is released in 83, like late September,
83,
right?
yeah.
So Ghostbusters, let's see, when did Ghostbusters come out in the year?
In 80, I was just trying to find that.
Okay, release date for Ghostbusters was summer 1984.
That makes sense.
So that means that I Want a New Drug hasn't even been out for a year. Okay? So Ghostbusters comes out, has this theme song by Ray Parker Jr. that becomes a massive hit. Movie's a massive hit. The song is a massive hit.
June 8th,
1984.
Yep. Okay.
The song comes out, and immediately the similarity between the Ghostbusters theme song and I Want a New Drug is pretty apparent.
Yeah.
The riff is pretty much identical. And the melody
I don't know.
itself is also
I
pretty
learned
similar.
both of those songs on bass. I could see Ray Parker's argument where it's not.
Sure.
Because it's in a different key. You're getting into, there's that podcast where they do interpolation, and I forgot the name of it off the
Yeah.
top of my head.
I mean, here's the thing.
The DJ's name is Luxury, and
Okay.
he's interpolation.
Yeah.
He does that thing. And they go into a song, and it's like this song sampled this song. Maybe if Ray said he sampled it, but it's just different enough that I can go,
Okay, but
did he really? Because
here's-
it's just a key. It's the same.
it's a pretty simple riff too, right?
Yeah,
Like I
it's
Want a
the
New
simple-
Drug. It's simple bar chords, like playing
Yeah.
simple chords in the key. The rhythm of it, like is pretty
Yeah.
distinctive. But here's the thing. This makes me think of when, apparently there's a story about like Daryl Hall, John Oates, they come up to Michael Jackson at some point.
And they
when
cook
they're
him
on-
dinner at Daryl Hall's house.
Oh man, compliment Daryl Hall's woodworking and
Yes.
yeah. Then
We'll
they'll
We'll get into that on a Hall and
wait.
Oates episode.
I can't wait to talk about Live at Daryl's house. Your dad's record collection. That's your dad's favorite show.
Yep.
He
Daryl's
probably
house.
has episodes still saved on his TiVo somewhere.
Yeah,
on a
exactly.
dusty TiVo in the basement.
Yeah, direct.
Go
TV
ask your
box.
dad to watch. Your dad will light up to watch Live at Daryl's house with you.
Yes.
We used to joke. This is just a side note that like they would prep the guests going on to Live at Daryl's house, beforehand by
Yeah.
saying like, look, when you go in there, okay, first of all,
They did this with Chromeo. Yeah,
we
this
need
is how we
lots
learned
of
this.
footage of you, like looking around the house like, wow, this place is beautiful. Did you do this yourself? Like the woodwork. And then you need to tell him he's the preeminent soul singer of his generation. Doesn't matter that he's a white guy. Doesn't matter if you had other, you just need to tell him that. And then if you guys are singing your song with the band, you need to let him take a verse. Even if it's not planned, if he starts singing, you
Just
back up
let him.
and just act. This is the best thing that's ever happened.
Yes, yeah.
You do all that, you'll be fine.
What a great PR manager that person was for doing that
Yeah,
too.
just making that happen. I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh
So-
my goodness.
The story was just that Hall & Oates approached Michael Jackson.
There we go. Yeah.
And they tell him essentially like, hey, we wanted to let you know that we were very inspired by, but, didn't. No, it's the other way around. Excuse me. Michael Jackson comes up to Hall & Oates.
Okay.
Tells them, that's
Okay.
right. Tells them Billie Jean, the bass line for Billie Jean.
Okay.
Essentially, he's like, I didn't mean to rip off, I can't go for that. The opening of that, the bass and kind of drum feel. And they're like,
Okay.
oh, that hadn't even occurred to us. And even if it inspired you, that we feel really honored by that. Because of course, Billie Jean,
Sure.
But even Michael Jackson's like, apparently he, at least maybe subconsciously on some level, had heard,
Sure.
I can't go for that. But here's the
Kind of the same thing for.
this is where it gets complicated though.
Okay.
Okay. The Ghostbusters theme song,
Gotcha.
right, comes out again. This is shortly after.
I think it's 8 months, 10 months later.
Yeah, this record's
8
out,
months.
right? And if you look at the history of the single releases from sports, right? I Want a New Drug is the second single to be released, right? In a way, like the Ghostbusters theme, kind of, you could see it as sort of eating its lunch a little bit. You know what I mean? Where it's like, would I Want a New Drug have been maybe a bigger hit if Ghostbusters had not?
Yeah, I Want a New Drug was, as a single, was released in January of '84.
Yes.
Which is weird because the album's already been out.
Well, but they're doing, again, right? They release it late in the year. There's 5 singles. Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially what happens is, for those that don't know, Huey Lewis and their team come to Ray Parker Jr., basically say, you ripped me off.
Oh, they started
We're
suing
suing
him.
you.
Yeah, they just went straight to court.
So they settle out of court
Yeah.
for an undisclosed amount.
They didn't sign an NDA, but they promised both
they
of
made
them wouldn't talk about
an
it.
agreement.
Yeah.
Yes,
They
that there would
made a
be-
gentleman's agreement,
that
shook
no
hands.
one would talk about it.
Yeah.
So
what do you think? Why? What do you think?
I want to think that maybe it's because it's hard to say, because it could be that could have been Ray Parker Jr. being like, I don't want people to know that I kind of did rip this song off.
Yeah.
And it could be Huey Lewis kind of being like, I don't want people to think I'm a jerk for like going after you for this song, right?
That's on par with Huey. Yeah.
So that's hard. You get both things there.
Yeah.
But of course, we get to 2001. It's an episode of VH1 Behind the Music.
Which I watched, by the way.
It's great.
And
great
it's
time.
a throwaway line. It's literally nothing.
He just mentions that, that Parker, that like they had a thing and that he sued him for ripping off I Want a New Drug.
It was like barely 2 seconds. Yeah.
So then Parker comes back and sues Huey Lewis for telling that story and breaching their confidentiality agreement that they'd made.
Yeah.
And the thing that really got me that I think is funny about this story is, of course, this controversy's been going on for, at that point, like almost...
Controversy. Yeah.
It's like 20 years, right? That,
Sure.
Since
Yeah.
this happens, this comes out. And in a 2004 issue of Premiere Magazine, the film magazine, some of the filmmakers who made Ghostbusters are talking about the making of the movie.
Yeah.
They admit that they, in their temp track for the movie, had I Want a New Drug cut into it. They had approached Huey Lewis to work on the film, and he said no. So then
Because he was already doing...
They were working on their record, and...
Well, at that point, they were probably already doing Power of Love for...
Possibly. Yeah.
For Back to the Future, and...
The timeline is
They
hard
were on
to
tour
suss out because,
too.
again, you got to think about, like... New Drug comes out in January. Or, I mean, it's on the record in September, but like as a single in January, that movie's in theaters in June.
Yeah, that's hard. That would be a lot of work.
They give it to Ray Parker Jr. with that song in there.
Yeah.
There's no way he was not hearing it and like unable to like do something completely different, right?
Sure.
So
I would say this though, he did a bang up job.
He
Props to Ray
delivered
Parker.
Exactly what the filmmakers
He did a bang up
want.
job of making it, in my opinion, just different enough. The only part that's really anything like I Want a New Drug is that bass line. Do 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 do.
Yeah, it's the same.
And
It's the
to-
same riff. It's just a riff on the same riff. But I mean, that's where.
Yeah.
We could spend an hour talking about how, when you
And we have spent an
when you are suing musicians for ripping off other musicians.
And that's the whole interpolation. I feel like, if Ray Parker would have just like given props to Huey, who would be like, sweet.
This is why now, things like when somebody from like Tom Petty's estate points out to Sam Smith that like, hey, your Stay With Me song uses the identical melody to I Won't Back Down. And he just goes, okay, we'll just credit him as a songwriter.
There you go. That's the right thing to do.
You know? Because it's like subconscious.
And this also brings up the point, and we'll get there, I guess, is that at what point does that stop? Because everything could sound like anything.
Everything's eating its own tail these days anyway. That's all it is.
Have you heard about that guy who's copywriting and putting in the public domain? He's having an AI go through every possible combination of a melody on like from a piano and then copywriting it. He's up to like 6 billion or something like that. And then he's putting them all in the public domain so that when that argument comes up, they can be like, well, it's just like this and it's in the public domain.
Yeah. It's
right. Because like
it's sticky, man.
At what point do you, and this is what that podcast with Luxury does. I can't remember the name.
Interpolation.
Where he says it's interpolation.
And that's why I think what makes this particular case so fascinating is just the fact that he was essentially asked by the filmmakers, can you do this but different? Like this is what we have in our head for the rhythm of the way this is edited for this footage. And then he does, like ends up making that. And I think the only injustice there, and we'll talk about this more at the end, is that on the year-end Billboard charts, right? As far as like...
Sorry, I'm looking up. It's Luxury. His birth name is Blake Robin.
Blake Robin.
He uses a bunch of songs. What is... The podcast One Song. It's on the iHeart Network. It's great. You should listen to it. It's great. He does it with actor Diallo Riddle. They get the stems of the songs. It's really cool.
The only thing I was going to say...
I apologize. Listeners.
The only injustice, I think, is that Ghostbusters ends up charting higher.
Then I Want a New Drug?
Yeah. Want a New Drug reaches number 6.
Yeah.
Finishes like the year overall at like number 55, like on the year-end charts.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters peaked at number 1. And then it finished at number 9.
But who was in Music for the World or whatever? One Night That Changed Pop Music.
Yeah.
Huey Lewis was.
That's Huey.
Okay. So, and they had five number 1 singles from that album.
Okay, so let's look at the continuing cultural impact here, right?
Cultural impact. They released 3 or 4 more albums. They were really critically acclaimed. As far as sports, what else you got for me?
Just that, again, they have all these monster hits. 84 is definitely there, as far as
and
that goes.
Into
that's
85
too.
And
into 85, especially with Back to the Future coming out. Those 2 years and right there, mid 80s, defines so much of what people think about when they think about that time period.
Yep.
Is a really interesting thing to kind of have them right at the center of it, as far as their music goes. And right here, some of the fact that this record, right, sports, again, 84 is really the year that you consider it's where it's broken, its sales and everything. Second best-selling record of that year.
Yeah.
Against
beat out
Thriller,
all the competition.
Purple Rain.
Well, Thriller was number 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for second year in the row?
Something like that. Yeah. Born in the USA came out that year.
Oh my gosh.
So you're competing against
the heavy hitters, the heaviest of heavies.
Other records that we will definitely talk about on this podcast.
Yeah.
Because of their, impact.
I got
Oh,
dude.
You Google Thriller, that first photo is gruesome. I love it.
Prince, Bruce Springsteen, Tina Turner, Madonna, Like a Virgin came out. Van Halen 84, which is my favorite Van Halen record, which we will talk about. I'm going to make you. Cyndi Lauper.
Oh. You're going to make me talk about Madonna?
Wham. I hate her too, dude. But we got to.
Be rough.
We got to talk about...
I have to talk about Madonna.
Yep. We got to go in. Her origin story is really interesting.
That's one of those things where I feel like I live
Lionel
on a
Richie,
different planet.
Michael Jackson. Yeah. Michael Jackson was 80. Thriller came out in 82. So this is his second year.
That's what it said.
83, 84.
Best-selling album of 83, and it became the first album to become the best-selling album for 2 years straight.
Whew.
So then for sports to sit right underneath it,
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal.
yeah, that's
Pretty
wild.
big deal.
That's wild.
I'm going to keep talking about this because it's just fresh on my mind. In A Night That Changed Pop Music,
Yeah.
he sings right after Michael Jackson.
Yes.
What an honor.
And he was nervous about that.
Oh, but he had been up almost 24 hours at that point. They had all been up for this has to be a separate podcast just on that night.
It's a great documentary. Go watch it. Go watch it.
Their other albums were kind of interesting. I think they were more genre specific, more like white boys covering blues and R&B. They were super critically acclaimed, but nothing as big. This was one of the coolest things that I heard is that they made enough to fulfill their dreams. They made enough money. They had a career now.
They secured their legacy with
They
that
were able
record,
to
too.
give pensions to the whole band, retirement plans to the whole band and their crew.
Yeah.
That is so cool
Yeah.
to me, is that they took care of
They took care of their
everybody.
people. Yeah.
And so that everybody could retire when they wanted to. Leads me to Chris Hayes. We haven't talked about the lead guitar player. You're a guitar player. How does he hold up? Like, what do you think about his guitar playing?
It's the thing where the 80s are such an era of guitar players, right?
Yes. It's guitar kings.
Because you go
gods.
from, like, you have guitar gods of the 70s, you have guitar gods of the 60s, but the 80s was like this new echelon of things you could do with a guitar that people had never heard or seen before.
Yeah.
You have at the same time, let me see, I want to make sure that I'm getting this right. That's my French bulldog making a lot of noise in the backyard. He stole a bagel off the table from Ryan this morning.
He's a full French bulldog.
He is.
He got his breakfast.
He's a wild man. Like Van Halen, right? Okay, their 1984 album
Yes.
came out in January 1984.
Oof.
So when you're talking about guitarists, like
Yeah.
this is a weird time to talk about guitarists.
Yeah.
Because like how do you rank them? How do you stack them up against each other?
Yeah.
I think Chris Hayes works perfectly in this band. I think
Yes.
that the sounds and the tones, especially on like this record being self-produced, the way that it sounds,
Yeah.
it's so clean and it's so good for like that heart and soul riff to me, that power chord riff is so iconic.
Yeah.
And it's so meaty and thick. I love that. And like as a soloist,
Thick boy.
I think he's very much in that realm of like kind of comes from this blues background.
Sure.
Translates pretty well into like the 80s style of what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's pretty workmanlike, but he's good.
Yeah.
Like he's a good guitar player.
Awesome.
Like
Yeah. He's cool because he retired in 2000. He was like, yeah, I'm done. Got a new family. He's done. And we're back. There was an ad break.
it was a really good product.
Call that an ad break. Yeah.
We both use it and we believe in it very strongly.
Yes. Go buy said product.
So here's the question.
Hit
How we've talked about this record in context of when it came out, when it was made. Looking at it in 2024, specifically as 40-year-old adults, do you feel like it holds up? Do you still connect with this record?
Hard yes. Now let's see if I can pronounce their name correctly. Dang it, I can't. Chapel. It's because of Dave Chappelle.
I know.
It's spelled differently, but I can't. So Chapel, especially with Chapel Roan, it's like she's doing a nostalgic take on like the 80s now is nostalgic, and it feels like they're just doing exactly what Huey Lewis was doing then. There's obviously the songwriting, the lyrics are different, the message is different. It's not exactly right. The whole 80s thing is coming back in a big way, which is one of the reasons why we're doing this, is because I kind of want to try and capitalize on it a little bit. But they're just using a good beat, a blend of technology and analog instruments to give it a modern flair, but this time it's just a nostalgic flair.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's a recipe for success almost that Huey Lewis stamped and made his. So yeah, I think it absolutely holds up. What about you?
I do. This is one of those records that, again, like, because especially like thinking about it from right now as like just a picture of like when I think of 80s music, like these are the sounds I think of, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that they're being used in pop music today.
Yeah.
And have that kind of influence. I think that kind of speaks for itself. I do think as a record, like, this is one of the few that I would say, because again, I'm such an album guy, you could just kind of take some of the hits from this and put them on a playlist and be happy that they're like when they pop up, where it's just like, and they slot in well with that as well. And I think that comes from the setting out to record an album that feels like every song could be, a standalone radio hit.
Yep.
But yes, like I think the fun of like listening to this record holds up. I like looking back at the making of it in the way that it's like, I think almost every classic like piece of art has a story where there are just moments where it definitely could have fallen apart. You know what I mean? Where it's like just on the edge of not working. And I think about the story. I don't even know if this is true or not, but I love anecdotes like this.
Yeah.
That originally the Heart of Rock and Roll, the lyrics
was in Cleveland. Yeah.
And somebody decided like, I think this would be better as, the Heart of Rock and Roll still.
You can mention Cleveland when after it's still beating because he does that. He goes, it's still beating.
That made me laugh so hard because it's like, even these guys like have little decisions where it's like almost that would have been terrible.
Yes.
If it were the Heart of Rock and Roll is in Cleveland.
So it only charted in Cleveland.
Okay. This makes me think of like, did you ever see that movie, The Wrestler, with Mickey Rourke? It was like his big comeback. Got nominated for a bunch of awards.
I haven't yet. I want to.
Okay.
But
he's great in this movie.
I want to go back to back that movie and then Zac Efron's movie.
Yes. Oh,
the Monkey Claw or whatever.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
There's a story about the making of that movie that apparently Mickey Rourke just thought his character should wear sunglasses all the time. So the director was like, no. So he'd bring sunglasses to set, and the director would have to have people steal them from him and hide them. So he couldn't because he kept trying to put them on for the takes.
That's so
and
funny.
The director's like, no. And it's just this like, there's always something, like some decision that you're...
Could you imagine being the like makeup artist where it's like, oh, hold on, cut. We got to like fix something in the background. Go, get this. Go. Oh, sir, Mr. Rourke, we got to fix your makeup. I got to take your sunglasses off, and then just runs off with them. Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's that gives me a lot of like respect for the finished product because, nobody I think goes into anything like this knowing exactly what they want to make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It happens in the process.
Yep.
Okay, I want to take a look at, real quick, some other songs that were big, like, chart songs.
Okay.
We're looking at 84 because that's the year that more of the singles were charting, right?
Yep.
So the number one, like, song that finishes number one kind of year-end list is When Doves Cry by Prince.
Okay.
Huge hit for him. Of course.
I'm okay with this because even though I may not like Prince as an artist, I respect the magnitude of him.
That was a thing, man. Yeah. That record,
I
that
respect
time,
his artisanship.
Purple Rain. Number 9, of course, we could see this as an injustice or not. We've talked about it. It was Ghostbusters, Ray Parker Jr.
Okay.
But like on the year-end lists, Heart of Rock and Roll, I think it reached number 5 on the Billboard charts.
Okay.
Finished at like number 44.
Okay.
Want a New Drug reached number 6. Finished it at number 55, and Is This Is It reached number 5 and finished at like 64. Like still, those 3 songs still on that year-end chart.
Yeah, top 100.
Pretty
basically.
impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, I looked up a few.
Ooh.
Lists of what people consider to be some of the worst songs that came out in 1984.
Okay, good. Nice.
I needed them to be serious songs, not like this was a novelty.
Yeah.
Like these are real people. Successful artists. The 3 that came up on multiple lists were Hard Habit to Break by Chicago.
Okay.
And we will talk about 80s Chicago at some point.
Yes.
It is an interesting
Yeah.
thing. Hello by Lionel Richie, which I think has been...
worst song, really?
Yeah. I think it's been reevaluated more in recent times.
Yeah.
But a lot of people considered it to be kind of an over-composed, like, just, over-dramatic.
When did that come out?
I think it's 84.
We don't need to... Yeah, okay.
And then Under the Cover of Night by the Rolling Stones.
That one's top because you know my feelings about Rolling Stones.
I made you listen to it.
How dare you?
It's bad. It is the worst. I would consider that to be the stinker. That's the worst song that a serious band released in 84.
Yeah,
I would
can agree. I
hard
agree.
If you're listening to this, go after you listen through sports front to back, put on Under Cover of Night and be grateful for sports. Okay, the last thing.
There you go.
The last thing that I have for us is one of the things that I think is fascinating about this era, and I think we're going to run into this a lot as we do this podcast, is that I think we are living in a time when there's more music accessible and available than ever before.
Yes.
More people are sharing their music, but we live in
everywhere.
more, or I guess I would say a less diverse pop music landscape than in the 80s. Like if you turn on the like pop radio, top 40, not like stuff that's playing, like a mixture of different eras, but like right now, it's very much a lot of the same things that you hear.
The more accessible it is, the more everything homogenizes and becomes one thing.
And that's why, like, where are the artists? Like, this would not work now.
Huey Lewis would?
Because I'm trying to think about, like, you have somebody, right, that, like Huey Lewis and the band, who, when they're recording this album, right, he's, like, in his early 30s.
Okay.
They've already been working at this for
exactly 30, I think. He was born in 1950, so 83 he was 30.
33, right? Yeah. You think he's 33 with the voice of a 50-year-old, you know what I mean? Like from the beginning, like somebody who sounds like he's been singing and smoking cigarettes outside nightclubs since he was a teenager.
That's what he's been doing though, so that makes sense.
And I think about like right now, unless you've been an artist that's already been making records successfully for years, like Adele or somebody like that.
Sure.
Where are these people in the pop music landscape? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I can't. You're putting me on the spot, so I can't.
But
think
I mean,
of anything,
it's hard.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I posed this question to ChatGPT.
Oh, cool.
I said, "Who is the Huey Lewis and the news of today?" And the answer just was very damning. It's very depressing.
Yeah.
Because it compared it to, like, you might consider, it said bands like Maroon 5 or Imagine Dragons or Walk the Moon as contemporaries because they capture a similar mix of catchy melodies, upbeat vibes, nostalgic feel. They embody modern pop rock, but it has a wider audience. And I was like, that right there is your sign that, like, there is
But you don't like any of those bands.
But there's a reason I don't like any of those bands.
What is that reason?
So, like, Maroon 5, right? Let's just talk about them because they're my worst enemies.
Your arch nemesis is Adam Levine. Yeah,
correct.
We've established this.
I think he's a bad singer, and I think he's a bad person. And if he's listening to this, you can come to my house and fight me. I don't care.
Or we can have a deep therapy session about why he needs to change.
Or maybe I do. I don't know. We'll meet in the middle.
Yeah.
I think that when you listen to Maroon 5, right, every band changes over the course of their career. They make different records we've talked about that. It's a time capsule of a specific time.
I will say the best thing Adam Levine has done, is the Lonely Islands SNL digital short that he did.
Acceptable.
Yeah.
I think that Maroon 5 is a band that has basically just latched on to every trend that has come up in music and tried to just do that to sell records and stay relevant. And not in the way that Huey Lewis were like, hey, we need to make some hits.
Yeah.
Huey Lewis still sounds like Huey Lewis and the News.
He can't sound any other way, yeah.
But Adam Levine and Maroon 5, especially the last few years, it's the blandest hooks, the blandest melodies.
Has the character.
Yes.
And they were staying true to the roots, and they were trying to honor the stuff that they liked.
There is nothing true to the roots of Maroon 5 as a band.
Because they started out as a Nirvana cover band.
And then turned into sort of a funky pop band.
Trying to follow and
then turned into now just whatever radio is, that's what they sound like.
That's true, yeah.
That's what I mean
A
when you make a
55-year-old
comparison.
man with a puka shell necklace and a pina colada on his way to a rec center. Right?
I can't do it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, man, where
Bringing it back to the start of the podcast.
the thing is, the 80s are full of these people though, like that are
Sure.
not just like
They have
appealing.
character.
You've got people like Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel and like these
yeah.
singers that are all in their 30s
Yeah. Tina Turner.
or later.
Yeah.
Well, and like Tina Turner has a whole career before that,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Crazy
insane.
story.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about these artists that like are massive pop stars.
Yeah.
Huge pop stars in the 80s.
Yep.
Big chart success.
Yep.
And they're like, just
Normal dudes almost.
grown up dudes.
Yeah. Balding.
Yeah, like, where are those people in
Yeah.
our pop music landscape? You don't have them unless they're a legacy act.
Well, like would David Byrne be a legacy act?
Oh, yeah, he's like, he's been making music.
Because
He's-
Paramore just did a big thing about them.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
there
a
you go.
legacy
There's a
act.
person. Haley Williams. I will say Haley Williams is one of these people. A whole career in Paramore. And she's still in Paramore, but
Okay.
they're like, they've changed a lot.
But is that a niche band? Have they had
Their
a big
new
hit?
stuff? Yeah, their new stuff is huge.
How huge? I mean, like, have they had a top...
You just don't listen to them.
I'm just asking, do they have a top 10 Billboard radio hit? Or have they ever? And I think that's, the diversity that we see is more splintered. It's more niche, you know? And we can...
Well, that's just because there's more people.
There's
I
more
feel.
outlets. There's more ways. And I think radio splintered along the way also to have like modern rock and alternative radio and these kinds of things to where the sounds homogenized in pop music because everything else migrated.
That's what you get. Crush, 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 and Misery Business was peaking at number 15. First number one was 2013. In 2023, they ended a 6-year with the release of their album, This Is Why, which was number 2.
On what, though? Is this
Billboard
modern
Top
rock
10.
charts
Billboard
or
Top
Hot
10.
100?
Billboard Top 10.
Okay. So there you might have an example.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like if you don't listen to it, you just don't know. Right?
And I guess there's the other difference is that you couldn't not listen to Huey Lewis.
Right. We don't listen to radio. We don't listen to
It's a different culture.
all the different things.
Yeah.
Right. It's a different culture of people pick and choose what they want.
Yeah.
And I think I've just been blown away by Haley Williams. Like there's all these videos coming out of her because they've been on tour with Taylor Swift. And every time I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Like what a voice. Like, and a performer and just really great.
Right.
I really respect her as an artist. And so I think she's one of the ones, she's been to follow that analogy of these people in the 80s who had a whole career in the 70s and are reinventing themselves, she's one who could do it because she's had a whole career in the whole like fueled by ramen, like emo scene starting in like 2008, 2004 or 5 maybe. And then like whole career with Paramore, and Paramore has changed drastically from what it was.
Yeah, interesting.
So much so that like if this was back in the 80s and 70s, she would have quit Paramore and been her own person.
This is Stevie Nicks post
Fleetwood
Mac.
Fleetwood Mac, yeah. But other than that, I couldn't tell you because I'm not plugged in like I used to be. I'm not plugged in.
Maybe we'll have to, when we come back and do like Phil Collins or something, we'll have to come up with some more examples. See if we can think of who is the contemporaries of those kind of artists today, because it's tough. I think it's really hard.
It is really hard. Yeah.
Pop music has changed a lot, and in some ways it hasn't changed at all.
Yeah. And it might just be, the only persons that are coming to my mind now too is Selena Gomez. Who's an actress now.
Yeah.
And who is like...
But I mean, she was an actress. She was a Disney Channel kid.
Oh, was she?
Yeah. Wizards of Waverly
That's
Place.
how much I know. I don't know.
Yes.
I knew she sang
We're sorry, Selena.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, aside from maybe you have these like...
But for guys, I have no idea.
Because think about like, even in the
Nobody's coming to
90s, we
mind.
still had those people. You had like your Michael Boltons and your like...
Oh, yeah.
who were like, this is essentially a middle-aged person.
The only thing I think about with Michael Bolton, though, is Office Space.
Yes.
Just that guy.
As
just
people
like
of a
mean
certain
mugging.
age do. Yeah.
Just mean mugging the people calling him Michael Bolton. You.
I want to know, who maybe if you're listening to this and you can think of somebody,
Yeah, let's end the podcast here. If you
comment.
think somebody's a whole career, so this would be 2000s?
Yeah,
No,
who
a
worked
whole
their way up,
career.
but like now is like charting with mainstream
I mean,
success.
Justin Timberlake?
Yeah, but again, he was in a boy band. He got put together with that when he
Well,
was,
I
and
mean,
he was a Mouseketeer.
Genesis into Phil Collins. Like,
Yeah, but again, that's a different thing because Genesis, he was the drummer for Genesis.
Well, get at us on the socials,
I want
think
like a legit.
so far we've
comparison.
decided we're on Instagram and Facebook, so really just the Meta platform there. Maybe I'll start a Threads. Threads is fun, but that's also Meta.
Oh, Meta. We love you.
So Meta. Yeah, get at us on the socials. If you had any questions, comments, concerns,
Corrections.
hand grenades thrown in our general direction.
Not at my house, please.
I can take it.
Okay.
And I will retract anything I said and apologize. I'm not afraid.
Unless it was to Adam Levine.
He is your arch nemesis, so we mean everything, and we retract anything nice we say about Maroon 5. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, this has been your dad's record collection and 80s album retrospective. Subscribe if you want to hear more episodes, and we will talk at you next time.
So we're going to cut this in. We didn't really talk about Huey Lewis's voice a lot, and I wanted to talk about how Max, one of the members of our band, has said that because he sings one or both of our Huey Lewis songs.
He tends to be our Huey Lewis.
He's
analog.
our Huey impersonator.
Yeah.
And he says that one of the comments I've heard at the shows and when we talk about it is that Huey tends to sing at the top of like his diaphragm, like with all of his voice all the time.
It's pretty dialed up.
It's incredible that he can do that for 3 hours at a show or however long
Right.
that he does it. And he hits the notes perfectly
Right.
and he has great control. But about halfway in the album, I start getting tired. I start getting like, oh, Huey, can you do anything else, buddy?
Well, it's kind of the thing where you get
know?
tired for that person. You know what I mean?
That
Where you
too.
start,
Yeah.
I always make a joke with every Bonnie Tyler song. I'm like, I don't know how she ever
yes.
sang again after this.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like this was the last song she ever sang.
Emotionally,
Just
physically.
shredding those vocal cords.
Yeah.
Huey Lewis to me has such a distinct tone and sound. I do think there's more dynamic range to it than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
But I do like the thing that's interesting is he's kind of got that. It's not quite the same as Springsteen with the throat full of glass kind of sound, you know.
Ugh. That gets a little tiring too, to be honest. But when I listen to an album,
But it's like, you get this sound that is so unique to him that the thing I was thinking about with Huey Lewis is like when you hear him sing, it doesn't sound like he's singing high because his voice in your mind feels more like it's a mid-range kind of voice because of the way he's singing.
Almost baritone. But
And then you go to sing the songs and you're like, oh no, he's screaming.
Yeah.
He's
pushing his diaphragm. He's like,
yeah, it's a
pushing it.
lot of effort.
Yeah.
And just that, like, I think, again, I don't know how you go from being just the harmonica player guy, who does that really well, to like discovering that voice, and then that voice is so distinctive, and like you can't separate any of their songs from like the way that voice sounds.
He lost all hearing in his left ear in '83, I think.
That early?
Yeah, watch at The Greatest Night in Pop, and you'll see he only has headphones on in his right ear. So he only had one ear.
Yeah, though it said he experienced hearing loss in his right ear since the 80s.
Right ear, yeah, it's only his left ear. I missed that one up.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and then in 2001 or 2002, no, it was 2008. It was 2008. He lost hearing at a show as he's about to walk on. He gets up from
2018.
18. Okay, he lost hearing in his other ear.
Wow.
So really recent. So think about all that too. He's only doing 80. If I'm right, it's 83, and it's when they're on tour, and so he's doing 84, 80, like the top, all his top work with only one ear. If you're a musician, if you're not a musician, musicians work by using both ears.
Especially singers, man. That's wild.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I had.